Good morning. Welcome to The Morning Touch. I'm Darwin Campbell. The Morning Touch is brought to you by the Chaplaincy for the Homeless and the FSBC in Glendale. Thank you for coming back. We're talking about 2022. What will you do in 2022? We've talked about trusting God. We've talked about the power of prayer in helping you be able to have an avenue, someone to speak to who can help you. Today, we're going to ask the question in 2022, do you or can you spot God? You know, growing up, I had an avid idea or avid hobby. It was going out at nighttime, and I would look up to the heavens, and I'd love to see different stars. I'd look at the shapes. One of the big ones for me was the Big Dipper. I'd love to find the Big Dipper. It was a joy. Say, oh, where's the Big Dipper? It's over here. You could see the Big Dipper. Then you could see the Little Dipper. And trying to just map all of that out. It was kind of interesting. And then occasionally, while you're sitting there at nighttime in the middle of the night, watching those stars, you would see the little meteorites come by, or the asteroids come. I mean, it was kind of cool to see those trails go by. I can remember watching the conjunction of the planets one year. Where it was so bright and they were so lined up. It was just amazing. We look for these things and we're in awe when we see them. But what we need to understand is every time you see one of those asteroids or meteorites, every time you look at a comet, every time you see the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper, every time you examine the changes and the phases of the moon, you're actually spotting God. You're seeing the handiwork of God. Psalms 19 gives us some insight. In 2022, I want you to put yourself in a position where you can spot God. And then ask yourself, is God a part of me? Am I a part of God? And then look at yourself and look at your life and say, would things be better if I spot God and I make God part of me and I part of him? Let's look at Psalms 19. It says, beginning with verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making one wise. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. What you see makes a difference. Verse 9, the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true, and righteousness altogether. You know, those verses in Psalms 19 speak to me. They speak to me because in them, the Word, I can see God. I can spot God. God is unveiled before us, his very heart and his very nature. We see it in nature when we look up into the heavens, when we gaze upon the mountainside, when we see the growth of forests and meadows, when we see the changing of the seasons. God has manifested himself for us so that we might come to know him. The question is, have you stopped long enough? Have you slowed down long enough to see him? Because I believe that if you in 2022 slow down and take some time, you will not only spot God, you will see your need for God. You will understand that you cannot do this all by yourself. You will understand that you need this God to help you to the next step and the next level. Because you see, when we go through tough times and difficult things, that's the time when most people say, God help me. My friends, the objective is for you to see God before the challenges happen, to see God and know him before you have that illness, to see God and know him before that accident happens, to see God and know him before you lose your job, before you're homeless. My friends, if you would but stop long enough and take a deep breath, look up into the heavens, look around into nature, you'll come to understand. You will spot God and know that someone is in control that's a lot bigger and larger than you. And it is that someone that you can reach out to and that you can call up to, who will rescue you and give you relief from all that you're going through. My friends, we know challenges come because the devil is the author of trouble. He is the author and the father of lies and discontent and despair, and he is there to make your life miserable. If the devil could, he would put us all in hell right here on earth. But God will not let him do that. So the question is, while you are walking in this life, it is best that you stop and see God, spot God right where he is, and then look at that in relationship to your own life. Because there are some things that you'll see if you can spot God. The question is, in seeing God, do you recognize your shortcoming? Do you recognize your need? Because, my friends, we have to be honest. If you're truly honest with yourself, you know right now that you can't do it by yourself. You've gone through some things, but you need to understand that it is this book that has become the light. This book has given us the way, the truth, and the life. And when we look at it and we stand in it, no matter what twist, no matter what turn, no matter what up, no matter what down you go through, this book can guide you through that tunnel. It can walk you through it. But first, you must be able to spot God. You do. And the question I want to ask is, the things that you do in this life, do you see God in it? Can you spot God in it? If God's not there, maybe something's wrong. If God's not in your plan, in your life, in the things that you're doing, in the people that you're hanging around, then you need to take a second look. Because, my friends, God should be everywhere we are. And he should be in everything we do. And if he's not, that's a problem. You've opened the door to hell itself to assail you. You have no protection without this God. It's time for you to slow down and spot God and see him and ask yourself, is he involved in the things that I'm involved in? Am I focusing, dead focused, bullseye focused on his way? Dead focused, bullseye focused on his will. Dead, full, focused on him and what he wants for my life. You know, God has a plan for all of our lives. Some of us have discarded those plans. Some of us have thrown away because we're not allowing ourselves to see God, either in nature or in the book, the Bible. But I want to say this. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Isaiah 26 and verse 3. Most of us focus on the disaster ahead. Most of us focus on how bad it's going to be. But my friends, when you're focused on trusting God and you talk with him and you see him, my friends, those twists and turns are not as bad as they seem. We must keep our minds right. We must keep our hearts steadfast. We must be focused on God. In 2022, if you're not focused on God, you are headed down a road to pain, dismay, despair, and disaster. I am calling you and making an appeal right now for you to stop and turn around. Because when that disaster or that disappointment or that despair or that frustration hits you, without God, you have nothing. But with Jesus Christ, you have the fulfillment of the promise that God is with you. He will walk with you if you plant yourself like a tree by the rivers of water. Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. So as I wind this down, let me say this. Keep your eyes on him. Spot him, see him, keep your eyes on him, Walk towards him each and every day. Stay fixed, stay focused, and always looking, my friends. It's very important to your spiritual survival. None of us want to be burned up in a spiritual forest fire. None of us want to lose our lives doing our own thing or living by our own standards. It is high time that we do what Jeremiah says when he says, trust in God and walk in the hope of the Lord. That's the message for today. The Morning Touch is brought to you by the Chapters for the Homeless and the FSBC in Glendale. Go forth today, look for God, see him, spot him, come back to him. In Jesus' name. See you next time.